Okay, I think I am live. Let's just make sure. Cool. What up, everyone? Welcome to Financial Education and Business. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the stocks here in the stock market. Looks like Jermey dropped a long video here around the market, how things are going. And so the goal here is to just look at the stocks, react to it, and then go from there. And I'm going to be eating breakfast, kind of a late night last night, and then go from there. So let's go ahead and react. He's going to be talking about Fubo, AMD. Let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. PayPal. So if you own any of these companies, obviously this video here is going to be one worth your time. So let's go get started with AMD.
In this one, it's a great value stock. They got a consistent. So PayPal's now going to pay a dividend moving forward. And so a lot of investors will start to look at PayPal and say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to dip my toe in this one. It's a great value stock. They got a consistent business model. They're now accelerating growth, right? And it trades at extremely low trailing 12-month Ps, forward Ps, 2-year forward P, doesn't matter what you look at, right? So brilliant move by Alex Chris. Alex Chris continues to impress me. Obviously, this is something that has to go through the board of directors, but my guess is Alex Chris has something to do with this as well. And also impressive that Alex Chris is now accelerating these revenue growth rates. You know, people were a little skeptical of what Alex Chris was up to a few quarters ago. So like, what is going on here, man? The revenue growth keeps decelerating. Now they're starting to see all the changes Alex Chris put in place. And like, okay, we see what he was doing. Okay, we like him now, right? No, this was the biggest thing that happened today. This was bigger than the dividend. This was bigger than the revenue growth acceleration. This was bigger than the diluted EPS flying up and the basic diluted EPS flying up and the net income flying up. This was the biggest thing, okay? PayPal partners with OpenAI to let users pay for their shopping within ChatGPT. PayPal said on Tuesday that it's adopting a protocol in combination with OpenAI's instant checkout feature to let users pay for their shopping directly within ChatGPT starting in 2026.
I purchased my building from EverSafe Buildings back in 2018 to run a wood shop out of my home.
So if you're getting excited about numbers in 2026, we have some here, okay? PayPal is adopting the Agentic Commerce Protocol, an open source specification developed by OpenAI that lets merchants make their products available within AI apps, consequently enabling users to shop using AI agents. Meanwhile, OpenAI's instant checkout feature, launched in September, lets users confirm their order, shipping, payment details, and complete purchases without leaving ChatGPT. Customers can use their PayPal wallets for checkout, which the company said would enable it to provide buyer and seller protection as well as dispute resolution. The company is also providing technology to handle card payments from within ChatGPT using a separate payment API. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, okay, ChatGPT right now has a valuation of around $500 billion on it. In order for these latest investors to make money on this, they need OpenAI to become $1 trillion valuation, $1.5 trillion valuation, $2 trillion valuation, right? And a huge component of if OpenAI gets there or not is going to be commerce. They've got to become a major commerce platform over the next 5 to 10 years. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to justify that current valuation, right? And next year, merchants using PayPal products will have their products be discoverable on ChatGPT, starting with categories like apparel, fashion, beauty, home improvement, and electronics. Merchants will not need to build any integrations as PayPal will handle merchant routing and payments behind the scenes. That's phenomenal. That increases your likelihood of success immensely. You make it easier for folks. Much higher probability of success. The company said it is launching an agentic commerce suite that would let merchants feature their catalogs within AI apps, accept payments on different AI apps, and get insights about consumer behavior. PayPal has been working to insert itself in payments partner with various AI companies, such as they did deal with Perplexity, right? They also did something with Google's agent payments protocol. So you know, you got to understand, like, how did PayPal become such a massive platform where they have 400 million users or whatever it is, right? One of the big ways they did that and achieved that is back in the day, they partnered with eBay. They used to be like this with eBay, and then they ended up owning eBay over time, right? And eBay was a huge growing platform in commerce 20 years ago, right? 15 years ago, 25 years ago. Like eBay was it. They were growing substantially. And so PayPal and eBay became like this. And if I even recall, there was a time when it was like hard to use anything to check out with eBay other than PayPal, right? So now PayPal's looking, they say, hey, you know what? We see the opportunity for these AI companies to be the next massive companies as far as commerce goes, right? And transactions, these sorts of things. Let's get in early with them. Let's partner early. And so you want to partner early rather than late with these companies. You're going to get first mover advantage there, and you'll build a much closer relationship with companies like this, right? Huge, huge for PayPal. Now, PayPal will not be the only company, in my opinion, to partner as a digital wallet for ChatGPT over time. But when you're the first mover, you get that first mover advantage. That's why it's called the first mover advantage, right? And so that's going to be substantial for this company over time. Now, as far as PayPal, what are my projections for PayPal? Bull case, base case, bear case for this company. My bull case for PayPal has them only doing 9% revenue growth. This isn't something crazy. Like they've been accelerating from 1% to 5% to the latest quarter 7%. Who knows where that's going to continue to accelerate with. And then 2026, they start to benefit somewhat from these AI platforms as well, right? But I'm doing 9% revenue growth, 11% net income growth. That gives me a 16% net income margins come 2029. 20 to 25p is very fair for a company growing almost 10% revenues and 10% plus net income. That gives me a stock that's somewhere between 156 and 195. I think PayPal closed at like $73 today or $72 or something like that, right? Base case for PayPal, 7% revenue growth, which is what they just did in the latest quarter. 9% net income growth, which is significantly under what they actually grew in the latest quarter, right? 18 to 23 P's, easy peasy lemon squeezy for a company growing at these sorts of growth rates, right? That gives me a stock that's 130 to 167, so we can call it double up from here, if not over a double up. In bear case, I still get a good compounded annual growth rate on this company, right? It's a buy. PayPal's a buy today. It's a buy yesterday, it was a buy tomorrow, it's a buy next week, it's a buy next month, it's a buy for the rest of the year, it's a buy next year. Bottom line in regards to PayPal. So what stock did I end up putting about $52,000 in today? Well, I announced it in my private stock group. I bought 500 shares of PayPal in one of my private portfolios. And then additionally, I made a move in the public count. I took down my Adobe position just a little bit, about $10,000, and I put $10,000 into PayPal, or just over $10,000 more into PayPal essentially. So, brought my exposure up a little bit in regards to PayPal. I like it, man. I like it. They're doing well. I think it was a question mark 6 months ago, 9 months ago. I think a lot of people were questioning Alex Christ. Is he actually going to pull around this turnaround? Like, oh, you don't know, the numbers are getting worse. Now the numbers are just getting better.
Speak any language at the touch of a button. Yes, now it's possible. Meet Nens, the cutting-edge two-way instant translation.
Better. The partnerships, it's like they're starting to partner with so many different folks. Like they did that big deal in what was it, Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East here recently. Now we got the OpenAI deal, they got the Perplexity deal, the Google deal. Whew, they're rolling, man. They're rolling. So he's pulling it off. And bright days ahead for PayPal over the next several years. AMD.
You. I mean, it's getting ridiculous at this point, but I'll do it again. Congratulations, Lisa Sue.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, David. Good morning, Carl. Great to be here with you guys this morning.
Well, let's talk about this deal. This sounds like something that I would never expect from the government. It is almost like TVA. It's the government saying, listen, we can't wait. We have to do this, and we have to do it now. And it sounds like we have to do it now because you're able to deliver something, next year? Is it really? Can we done that fast?
Absolutely, Jim. So we were super excited to announce a new partnership with the Department of Energy. Secretary Wright has been really leading this, with such an ambitious vision of what we want to do in AI for this country. So we announced 2 new supercomputers that use our latest generation AI technology. And the key is, the focus from Secretary Wright was, let's do this as fast as possible. We have so many researchers in the nation that want more computing. And so, yes, we're going to develop 2 supercomputers. One of them will be deployed early next year, and then the other one will be deployed with our next generation MI400 series. So fantastic partnership, and I'm really excited to be able to contribute to this really important mission.
I don't mean to belittle it, but I got to talk a little horse race. You know, I think the MI400 is in some ways equal to NVIDIA. I want to know whether this was a contest and you got this and NVIDIA did not.
Well, as you know, Jim, I mean, this is a place where the national labs are truly a national treasure for the United States. Oak Ridge National Labs has been a great partner for AMD, and you can imagine everybody would want their compute in a national lab. So MI400 series is fantastic. We've been working across the board, across all industries, all of the national labs, all the sovereign countries, and I'm super excited to be able to deploy both our current generation MI350 and our next generation MI430 at the Oak Ridge National Labs through these two supercomputers.
Sometimes you got to wonder, does AMD, and this is an important point, listen, is AMD able to outcompete NVIDIA on certain deals because they're smaller and the deals make more sense to them? Like, you see a $1 billion deal, right? That's significant for AMD. Is it significant for NVIDIA? No, it's not. So would NVIDIA fight hard for a deal like this? Maybe, or maybe not, right? Whereas AMD's like, we're going to fight for that deal. So there's a lot of these smaller deals that AMD will likely go after and probably win because they're just going to compete harder for those deals. Because NVIDIA looks at it and like, man, we're doing such insane numbers with all these companies. Like, what does it even matter, right? Look at this. Sony's working on their next generation console with AMD. Xbox is working on their next generation console with AMD, right? Like, AMD's just in a place where they're able to, I think, outcompete NVIDIA in a lot of places that maybe NVIDIA would want, but it's just like, it's not really material to their business. And sometimes it's just like they let these potential deals go, right? Or maybe it was different. Maybe NVIDIA fought just as hard as AMD, but AMD had a better product or a better price or something like that. That could be too, right? But I think there's a lot more to be said about AMD is going to be able to fight harder for these smaller deals.
What caught my eye in the AMD release is that this is not just for traditional supercomputing for tech. This energy, medicine, health, national security, this to me sounds like a government initiative to stay ahead of everybody else in the world in all of these verticals, not just traditional data center compute. Can you tell us how, if I were, say, Thermo Fisher, or if I were Eli Lilly, I would be able to get into this and say, I want some of that compute power?
You're absolutely right, Jim. This is actually a non-traditional partnership between the government and industry. What we thought to do was, number one, we want to get as much compute as possible, as quickly as possible to the national labs. And they're going to do all kinds of research in medicine and energy and national security, which is wonderful. But we also said, there are industries that would, private industries that would like access to some of this compute as well. So the Eli Lillys of the world, the Thermo Fishers, all of these folks would also be able to participate as we bring up these clusters. And it is a very unique partnership. I would say, Secretary Wright said it best. This is the first time that he's announcing something where, the very first time I met Secretary Wright, he said, hey, bring me ideas, Lisa. Bring me ideas that get us more AI in the government.
I'd recommend getting a genetic methylation test just once in your life. Just once in your life. You'll never need to do it again.
Faster. And I have to say, he was very open. We love the partnership with Oak Ridge National Labs. Our engineers and scientists are really, really excited about contributing at the national scale for our U.S. AI efforts.
The other big story, Lisa, that made news regarding you guys in recent days was IBM saying about 4 days ago that one of their key quantum algos run on chips from you that are pretty commonly available, and it's raised a lot of questions about the possibility of commercializing those powerful computers.
Well, we are also very excited about the partnership with IBM. And in general, when you think about quantum computing, people were thinking that quantum is, it's going to take years to develop. And when you really think about it, we're not in a place where we can wait years for these developments. We want these developments, really making a difference now. IBM and AMD announced this quantum computing partnership. Our researchers have been working together. And the key is we're going to take the best of classical compute or traditional compute, which is what, we've spent all of this research and development on, and the best of IBM's quantum computing, and really putting them side by side in applications. So thinking about, how we solve the biggest material science problems, how we think about, some of the biggest energy problems. And this is an area where, again, when I think about the work that we're going to do with DOE, I think it's going to continue, it's going to be across all of these fields, including how do we get quantum, used in these new workloads as soon as possible. So this is kind of the world that we're in with compute today. It's all about speed and how do we get the most compute on the most important challenges as soon as possible.
Lisa, it's David. Just sort of more broadly speaking here, it's not as though other companies aren't developing plenty of chips as well, whether it's Amazon with the Trainium or Google and the TPUs and Meta. I'm just sort of curious from your perspective in terms of especially the inference market, but over time here, does the addressable market for AMD start to shrink as a result of all these potential competitors?
David, actually, it's exactly the opposite. I think what we're seeing is that the addressable market for AI and inference is actually increasing. We're seeing an acceleration of the use of AI, because as models get better, as enterprises are thinking about, how they can deploy these models, there's a lot more compute that's necessary, and we're seeing that across the board with the CapEx spending, as well as in our direct conversations with customers. And, David, I think the most important thing for people to recognize is a big market is good for all of us. That has been our mantra, is to develop technology that can go across all of these verticals. And I love seeing our technology in the national labs and also across all of these enterprises and the cloud.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot to add there other than AMD and Lisa Su are continuing to execute the way I would expect them to execute. Phenomenal, phenomenal. Alrighty, next up here, Alex Karp and Jensen.
Actually to provide business decisions. And Alex, I'm actually going to start with you, the CEO of Palantir, just to explain, does that mean no human intervention? Can you just explain how this would work and use Lowe's as an example?
Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be on the stage with what many people I believe to be one of the great entrepreneurs of my lifetime and a patriot. And it means a lot to me to be here. So we have a product called Ontology. You could think of it as essentially a digital representative of your enterprise, including security model, which essentially takes the disabilities out of large language models and allows you to move decision-making to the front line with people, without people, depending on how you're doing it. In the context of Lowe's and other enterprises, it allows you to essentially automate decision-making, like how would your supply chain work? How would it work if it changed? How do you get the cheapest good to the right place, given that there may be disruption? But in general, what's very, very special, I believe, about our partnership is we're going to be able to move 2x, and I think in the future even faster. So you get a much, much faster, and actually, because you can control it in a more granular way, much faster, much cheaper. And then the macro thing that I'm actually most excited about, which for our country is, because of that, you can do manufacturing in America, you can make the workers stronger and better, and you have more competition because you can use open weight models, open source models. You can use any hyperscaler. You can decide not to use a hyperscaler. This is much, much better for America, much better for workers, much better for industry. It's cheaper, it's faster, and obviously they have one of the world's top tech teams, and we work very well with them.
Before we go further here, you may say, how did Palantir stock not really move today? Like, it was up 0.2%, right? On, a big deal. The fact that Alex Karp is, sharing seats with Jensen, right? The center of the universe, like, that's a big deal. Why is the stock only up 2%? Here's why. Palantir is priced in a lot of good news. The valuation has exploded. Everybody's waiting now on Palantir's earnings and to see what that revenue growth comes in at, right? People are trying to see, is it going to start decelerating? Is it going to accelerate more, right? Are we going to go to 50%, 55%, 60%? Like, what's going to happen here, right? That matters much more than, Alex Karp being on a stage with Jensen, right? And doing an interview with Jensen. It's big, but it's not stock price moving at this point in time. We got to see what the revenue growth is. If the revenue growth accelerates to another level higher, then we'll talk about the stock approaches 200, right?
If you own NVIDIA, this could be the most important video you will ever watch, because while millions of investors continue to...
But we got to see that. If we don't see that, then Palantir stock will start to slowly break down.
And just in regards to that collaboration, then who would actually be procuring the hardware? Is this like a company like Lowe's? Do they have to put the upfront cost, with their existing GPUs and then working with Palantir? Is that how it works? Or
first of all, it's amazing to think that the Palantir ontology platform has achieved all of this, and they're the fastest enterprise growing platform in the world. In a lot of ways, it gives enterprises what we all want, which is intelligence and the ability to make good decisions fast. And now we're going to supercharge it with NVIDIA's accelerated computing for the first time. And so NVIDIA's CUDA accelerated computing is going to get integrated. We're going to be able to put NVIDIA's AI libraries on top of that and open source model that we're working on together into the ontology platform. And you'll run it in the cloud, any cloud, or you run it on-prem or even a private cloud. And so, as you know, NVIDIA runs everywhere. And so you could buy a server from HP or Dell. You could be in another country and you want to set up your own private cloud. We got no trouble with that. And so it doesn't matter. We run everywhere, and Palantir runs everywhere.
But you're talking about the future then. So this isn't something that would be accretive to revenues just in the near term. You're still working it out. And like, I know Lowe's is an example, but are there other customers?
Well, at Palantir, we just do what's best for our customers. We work downstream for value creation. So what we believe, we know when it's faster, better, more accurate, and more flexible, and creates a better future for them because they can choose how they want to run their applications. We'll do very well. And at Palantir, we're doing very well in revenue and profit. And that's not actually our primary motivation now. And the reason we've done so well on profit and on growth is because you just have to create value. This creates more value for the end user.
But you just said before, too, that the human may not even be involved with some of these decisions. And I guess that is a major concern in this day and age, that AI efficiencies could take away from or displace.
Kind of strange. Alec Karp just took that, she was asking Jensen, and then he just took that over there. A little strange, right?
Job force. So couldn't something like this collaboration do that?
It's interesting. When you say humans don't have to be in the loop, that doesn't inherently mean there aren't cases where humans need to be in the loop. For example, 40 years ago, we had 40.
November and December are usually amazing months for the stock market, right? What if we don't have the pullback that we could have had, right? We got no 2018, and what if this market just keeps rolling on? What do you do in that situation, right? A lot of people are already like, geez, this market's still so high, it reaches new all-time high. What do we do? So we'll get into all that in this video here today. I hope you guys enjoy this one. The only thing I need from you, if you could please just hit that like button for me. That's all I need from you guys. I hope you enjoy me doing these daily videos, kind of keeping you up to date with everything going on in the market, my perspectives, and teaching you a little something out there with each one of these. That's always my goal, right? Not just to inform you on what's going on out there, but also to educate you on, things that I've seen over my 17 years in this market. If you just smash that like button, that means the world. Additionally, if you want to be subscribed to the channel and see more of my content in the future, make sure you're subscribed here. If you're subscribed, much higher probability YouTube will show my videos. And speaking about subscribe, you guys are all in the first 900,000 subscribers on this channel. We're shady wealth cards mailed to your membership section. We're going to start to basically get that tapped on my. Why don't I sell everything and become? When I was in middle school and high school, I loved to play a game called Madden. Okay, this was a football game.
I think the MI400 is in some ways equal to NVIDIA. I want to know whether this was a contest and you got this and NVIDIA did not.
Well,
what if your eyes could regenerate themselves?
Since the late 2000s, the AREDS 2 eye vitamin.
The money. Well, I put the money in TSLZ. I went ahead and finished off my hedge here. So that's a 1% hedge for the portfolio. What if this market just keeps going up, right? Which what people are wondering, what do you do? Do you take profits? Do you not take profits? Do you stop buying? What do you do in this environment? Do you start betting against Tesla stock and Palantir? What do you do, right? Okay, so here's kind of my 2 cents in regards to this subject. One, you take profits where returns don't make sense over time. So when you run your projected numbers, and I'll show you in just a moment, how I think about these projected numbers, right? When you run your case on a stock, okay, and you run those numbers, and at the end of the day, the CAGR does not say a very attractive return on your base case, you got to cash. You got to take profits in that stock. As bad as you might not want to, if the return profile does not say a good return, you take some profits. That's just the way it is. And part of the stock market is taking profits. Do keep that in mind, right? Most of the time, as a great long-term investor, you're just buying and holding, buying and holding, buying and holding. Selling doesn't happen that often. And usually actually when I sell, it's like a big subject, right? Like, oh, I sold the stock. Like it's a big subject. Whoa, I buy stocks all the time. How often do I sell? Doesn't happen very often, right? So, but it is part of the game. And there's going to come a moment where every stock you end up selling at some point in time, right? It's just what ends up happening. People were debating today. I was watching CNBC. They were debating Berkshire Hathaway stock is going through a really tough time, right? I called that out years ago. So the day Buffett announces he's going to step down from that company, it's going to have a whole re-rating of that stock. And so even though the market's going completely risk on green, Berkshire Hathaway stock's doing horrible because it's not getting the Buffett premium anymore, right? And I explained that happened to Apple. I explained that happened to even Wynn stock with Steve Wynn. When Steve Wynn got kicked out of Wynn Resorts, had a whole re-rating of that stock. When you got some legend, I mean, if Elon Musk left Tesla tomorrow, stock's down 50% in a month, right? Like, it's as simple as that. When you got a legendary CEO in place, people are willing to pay a crazy premium just because that guy is in place, right? And so Berkshire Hathaway now, Warren Buffett's going to be leaving next year. And, you know, people are like, oh, not willing to pay what I used to pay for Berkshire, right? And so keep in mind, imagine if the market was in a downtrending market right now, Berkshire would probably be down 20 or 30% right now, right? Which for a great company like that's kind of crazy. But you got to run your numbers. If the returns don't make sense, you got to cash, right? 2, focus more on value and dividend stocks. When the market starts to get really frothy is just a fancy way of saying the forward P on the S&P 500 starts to get very elevated, which is what we're in right now. Focus more on dividend stocks and value stocks. That's where your best opportunities are, because when you're in a frothy market, people don't care about value stocks. They don't care about dividend stocks. They care about Palantir. They care about Tesla. They care about momentum. Look at stocks like Palantir and Tesla, since those are ones we're talking about in this video. Look at those stocks at the end of 2022. Where was Palantir stock? $7, $8, something like that, right? Where was Tesla stock going into 2023? About $100. Tesla stock was down like 70+%. Palantir stock was down 70+% from where those stocks peaked at in 2021 to where they troughed at the end of 2022 going into 2023. Those stocks were down like 70, 80%. No one wanted those stocks because you know why? The market was going down. The NASDAQ was down 35+%, right? The S&P 500 was down like 25% or so. So no one wanted Tesla. No one wanted Palantir. We're in the completely opposite situation. Everybody and their grandma wants those stocks. They're the momentum, right? But you know what they don't want? Dividend stocks, value stocks. Look at how so many dividend stocks and value stocks have performed since 2020, that end of 2022. A lot have done horrible. A lot of value and dividend stocks I look at are down 20, 30, 40, 50% because no one cares to own those right now. It's not that the companies are suddenly bad. It's just people don't want to own those. They want the momentum, so they funnel their money into the momentum stocks, right? Guess where money starts to funnel once you start to get a downtrending market for any significant amount of time. Significant amount of time meaning 6 to 18 months. Guess what? Money starts to funnel right into the value and dividend stocks, right? So that's where you want to look at when the market starts to get really frothy. So where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my capital, especially if this market keeps going up in November, December, right? Let's say big tech earnings come out, these companies nail it, the market just keeps, climbing. Next thing you know, we got an S&P 500 well over 7,000. At the end of the day, I'll be starting to focus even more on dividend stocks and value stocks, right? Because remember also, when it comes to dividend stocks, those pay you out those dividends when the market's down, and then you're able to funnel that money into long positions of growth stocks. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, I want more capital to invest right now, but I have to sell a stock for that. That's no fun. But if the company's paying you out dividend money, right? You got a bunch of dividend stocks in your portfolio, they're paying you that out regardless. Like if you own great dividend stocks, it doesn't matter if you're going through a recession. It doesn't matter if the stock market's crashing. They keep paying you out those dividends every 3 months. Credits just keep coming into your portfolio, keep coming in, and then you're able to buy great growth stocks with those, probably at cheap valuations, right? Would you not like to buy Palantir at $7? Would you not like to buy Tesla at 100, right? Would you not like to buy Shopify for $25 in 2022, right? What about Netflix at 170 in 2022? Would you like that? If you had that dividend money coming in your portfolios, you were able to buy, right? Next thing up here is if you're a big dog, hedge, right? Big dog meaning you've got many years of experience in the market. You also have massive portfolio. You can hedge. There's a lot of different strategies. I go through those in my private group and in some of the curriculums. I think one video is like 50-minute videos just explaining different hedge strategies, but you can buy puts, right? In the money puts, you can buy out of the money puts. You could even make an argument that selling covered calls could be a hedging strategy as well, right?
I was embarrassing myself in front of my mother-in-law until this $20 knife changed everything. So I'm at my neighbor's barbecue last weekend, and I watched this poor...
There's a lot of different other put strategies you can do. You can buy like inverse ETFs as well, right? Which is obviously something I did there. But you can also buy like a 2x leverage ETF against an index, right? You can buy call options on an inverse ETF, right? You can buy put options on a leveraged ETF that's going on the upside, but you could buy put options. There's so many strategies you can do in regards to hedging, right? But that's really advanced stuff. Like I said, only if you're a big dog with a lot of experience and a lot of money in the market does that really make sense, at least in my personal opinion, right? Obviously, everybody's free to do whatever they want to do. It's just my 2 cents on it, right? So in regards to running numbers and running projections, right? Looking at 1000xstocks.com, this is my Palantir projections. I'm going to show you my bull case, base case, and bear case for Palantir, right? And I'll show you why it's made sense for me to cash Palantir shares like crazy this year, right? So I have them doing 40% on average revenue growth under my bull case assumption, 2026 to 2029. Going to be very difficult to do that, but we ran those numbers. 50% net income growth on average per year, 2026 to 2029, right? 120 to 140 P, net income margins of 42%. If that happens, Palantir still buy, right? Palantir would give me a compounded annual growth rate of around 20% roughly, if this scenario played out. But my bull case is usually only about, I would say, a 10 to 20% probability. My base case is much more realistic. My base case has them growing revenue 40% in 2026. I think that's a realistic number they can hit. 38% in 27, 35% in 28, and 30% in 29. Very strong numbers. Net income growth of 50%, 40%, 38%, 35%. Net income margins of 37% come 2029. 85 to 100 PE if the company's in kind of more of the SaaS space, growing at those sorts of growth rates, right? I don't get a return. If I run my base case, and remember, those are great numbers. Like, how many companies could really put up those numbers that Palantir is going to put up over the next 4 years? Almost no one, right? If I can't get a return over the next 4 years, cash. You got, as hard as it is, you got to cash, because it's going to be a dead money stock for the next several years, unless that very low probability of the bull case plays out, right? What about a bear case for Palantir? That would be 40% revenue growth in 26, down to 35% 27, 30% 28, and 25% 29. Keep in mind, those are still great numbers. Respect, right? 45% net income growth, followed by 40%, 35%, and 30%. 37% net income margins in 2029. How many companies in the world could do 37% net income margins? Not very many. There's like a handful of them, okay? 70 to 80 PE, which is high, but, you know, if you got those sorts of growth rates, you could command it. You're getting a negative return. That's why it makes sense to cash Palantir. Like, you know, that's why I've sold the far majority of my shares of Palantir this year, because I've just run the numbers, and the numbers say, dude, got to cash. Like, so that's what I do. So you might say, why didn't I sell it all? I got a little 1,000 shares left. Remember, I used to have 5,555 shares of Palantir in the public account, right? And a ton more in other portfolios. At the end of the day, the only reason I'm holding this last 1,000 shares of Palantir is just in case my bull case plays out. In that, let's call it 10 to 15% probability plays out. I want to have a little skin in the game, just in case, because amazing companies sometimes do amazing things, and that would be pretty shocking. If this company could average 40% revenue growth 2026 through 2029 per year and 50% income, that'd be a historic run. Historic. Maybe they pulled off. And so that's why I'm like, let me just keep a teeny bit in it. So that's why I still have 1,000 shares in the public account, right? And I still have it as a position in the Patreon portfolio. But for the most part, it makes sense to be cash and shares, because the 2026 through 2029 does not set up well for Palantir stock. It just does not, man. It's rough in regards to that, right? So sometimes you got to make tough decisions. That is what it is. Remember, folks, build a portfolio you're going to be proud of years from now, not just proud of for the next 2 months, the next, year and a half or something like that. Build a portfolio that you're going to look at 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, and be very proud of. Stay focused on long-term, this incredible wealth building opportunity out there, and we got to continue to capture that, right? Pin and comment down there here today if you're looking to apply to join Prep Stock Group, Prep Wealth Group. Especially, you need to get in there ASAP if you have under $100,000 net worth, because you will not be allowed in starting next year. So keep in mind, what do you get access to? All of my course.
All right, that was a good video from Jermey. I'm trying to do a couple things here just to prepare for AMD earnings that are coming up. I think there's definitely a potential that that on Tuesday when they report earnings, I think the market is gonna definitely be watching one company out, and that company is gonna be that one company is going to be AMD. So we're just gonna what I'm trying to do is kind of go through Twitter, see what's being said about earnings expectations, go through YouTube and just go through all those. As you can see, those I've listed some of the companies in the chat: SoFi, AMD, Google, Amazon, PayPal, Fubo. So I say like a lot of those, almost every single company listed there is a strong company. So if you're looking to research and understand, companies to invest in, that's a good place to start. So definitely check those out. But let's go ahead and see what Couch Investor is talking about here on AMD. And then on the side, I'm gonna do research on what's going on with the price of Fubo, because Fubo seems like it could be a really good investment here. This is a company that obviously they didn't beat revenue last Q1. And then Q2 they beat EPS and revenue, and then EPS they beat it by double compared to last quarter. Last quarter they beat EPS by 33 and a third, I believe, 33 and a third, and then here this quarter the Q2 of 2025 they beat earnings by 66.6. So that's why I kind of think that they're probably just going to do it again. Fubo is estimated to do this 364 million on revenue, and EPS are expected to miss. And I have a feeling they're not going to miss. If the EPS estimates are to miss, I think they're going to beat both, I think, in the 30s or 20s. But yeah, let's go ahead and watch what's going on here on AMD.
To another video for today. So let's talk a little bit about AMD, my expectations going into the earnings report November 4th after the market closes. We've been talking about AMD for quite a long time, and yes, it does definitely feel like this. AMD at $80, even $90, or actually around $100 as well, it really felt like this. Nobody was really that interested. But now at $250, well, there are plenty of people that are interested in AMD stocks. And maybe that's a warning sign. Well, we'll discuss all of that in this video. Hit all the buttons, we really appreciate that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. So as you can see, AMD has been performing extremely well, right? Year to date, stock is up 110%. I believe Intel is also up 100% or so. This is now a $410 billion company. Yes, PE, trailing PE especially, very, very expensive, right? 151 times. Forward PE here, 50 times. Again, those are based on the current analyst expectations. And I do think that the current analyst expectations are a bit low. We're going to see quite a lot of changes, in my opinion, in those estimates after the upcoming quarter. Now you're going to say, yeah, but a lot of these analysts already changed their mind after the OpenAI deal. Yes, the average analyst price target did go much, much higher. But I don't think that they have taken, even before that announcement was made, the estimates were quite low. Before that announcement was made, remember, the stock was trading at around 20 times 2027 earnings. I thought that was quite cheap in my opinion. Now, as I said in another video, I don't think it's worth chasing AMD before they report earnings, and I'll explain why. Currently, the market is expecting AMD to report around $8.72 billion in revenue, EPS coming in around $1.16, and we have here free cash flow coming in at above $1 billion.
Are you interested in mushrooms? I'm Matt.
Now, what am I looking for during this earnings report, and more specifically the earnings call, and also why I'm saying that it's not worth chasing right now? I'm saying it's not worth chasing right now because one, yeah, the stock has run up quite a lot. Now you might say, yeah, but fundamentally something has changed here after that OpenAI deal and also the information we've got from Oracle. Yes, I would agree. But still chasing this right now into the earnings report is not a smart thing in my opinion, because again, all the information or the majority of the information has been given already. Currently, whatever has been announced, everything with OpenAI is going to take some time, right? We're talking here about the MI450, something for 2026. Not for now, not for this quarter, definitely not, and not for the upcoming one either. But what I am looking for is a bit more information on that OpenAI deal. Maybe they'll be able to share a bit more information about that, especially with the 10% deal that OpenAI could get 10% of AMD if, of course, they reach each and every tranche, and the last one being $600 in share price, which is around $8 trillion in market cap. Then, if it's not too much to ask, maybe some actual AI revenue for the year. Right, last year that was just above $5 billion. Then we started the year with analysts expecting it to be closer to $11-12 billion, and then that was dropped to around $8.5 billion. And now I've seen some numbers that are even lower than that. So maybe some color around that would be great. Timeline for the MI450s. When should we be expecting that? Again, I think that could be provided here with point one, more information on that OpenAI deal. And maybe again, they can tell us that they're in talks with some other huge players. Could definitely be something. Maybe an XAI, maybe a Microsoft. Who knows? That types of thing, could definitely push the stock even higher. But again, let's keep the bar quite low, or a bit lower, I should say. I do think that we're going to see the server and the client business continue its momentum. It's something that they told us last quarter. I do still think that the server and the client business are going to perform quite well. Gaming and embedded, signs of acceleration. We know that the worst is behind those two segments. And again, it's important to understand that when you look at AMD right now, revenue-wise, these are the expectations for the year. Around $33 billion in revenue. Last quarter, yes, gross profit margin took a hit, again the China hit, but free cash flow margin over the last couple of quarters, we've seen that grow, right? We've seen margins expand. Same with gross profit margin. Of course, if you exclude the China impact, we're still going in the right direction. That's great. That's what we've seen also with NVIDIA in 2023. Of course, the gap between NVIDIA and AMD is still quite big fundamentally. Operating margin has also seen some huge recovery and growth over the last couple of quarters. But remember, with AMD, the business itself right now, data centers, yes, again, impact from the China business, but this will grow into, yes, tens of billions of dollars in revenue in the future and will be a very profitable segment of the company. But client is still a very big part currently of the business. Last quarter, client increased 67.5%, almost $2.5 billion in the quarter. $2.5 billion in the quarter. I mean, data center, right? The whole big topic here was just $3.2 billion. And at the peak, currently $3.8 billion. So again, when I talk about the client, I know some people that say, who cares about that? Well, I care because it's still a decent amount of revenue for the company. Same with gaming. Gaming is also a decent amount of revenue, not that big, but still a decent amount. Margins there are quite good, right? Margins for gaming, quite good. Embedded also, a very high margin business that has been facing quite a lot of headwinds. But I do think that we're entering a phase where those headwinds turn into tailwinds. All of that adds to the revenue profile of AMD and also operating income. Many people just disregard those businesses because, well, those are not data center businesses, so who cares? I care because it does help the company fundamentally. And last quarter, remember, these were the comments that they made talking here about gross margin improvement. Excluding the write-down, AMD's non-GAAP gross margin for the second quarter would have been approximately 54%. Better than what the market was expecting, expanding margins for the 6th consecutive quarter year over year. Server business, which has nice gross margins, is helping to drive the overall gross margin up. Client business, particularly the commercial PC segment, is also contributing positively to margin expansion. And we've just had the Intel earnings report. I think AMD will do quite well. Gaming has quite high gross margins, but its mix in last quarter was unfavorable. The company's objective is to continue to improve gross margin even with the ramp of the MI350 series, which is a key priority for a company's data center segment. Now, as you know, this is something that I've shown you in the past. Previously, when we look at CSP CapEx estimates, and in this case, AI revenue as a percent of CSP CapEx, for 2026, it was, or it still is, estimated that NVIDIA is losing share here, Broadcom gaining quite a lot of share, and AMD gaining around 1 percentage point. Now, again, this is 2026. We'll see what happens for 2027, and especially after the OpenAI deal for AMD, I do think that things are going to change here in favor of AMD. Now, to end this, you might say, okay, after hearing all of it, it seems like you're extremely bullish on AMD. Well, yes, that's the point. I am extremely bullish on AMD, have been extremely bullish on AMD for quite a while. And yes, things have changed thanks to the OpenAI deal, Oracle, huge Oracle order as well. Yes, things has changed, but I don't need to chase this thing into earnings. We've gone up significantly over the past couple of weeks and months, and now I am fully waiting and fully prepared to wait for more information from Lisa Su in the earnings report and in the earnings call. Is this the next $1 trillion or $5 trillion company in the making? Well, I don't know. $1 trillion company in the making? Yes, if everything goes well and they execute well, I do think that it's possible in the next couple of years. Not next quarter, definitely not next year. So yeah, this is everything you need to know. Keep your anticipation realistic for this quarter. Don't forget that AMD compared to an NVIDIA, still a huge difference revenue-wise. And so yes, the other segments, client, gaming, embedded, are still of importance. All in all, that's about it for me in this video. I'll of course cover the earnings report and call on the channel, probably with...
There we go. So practically he's saying that, you know, it's not a buy here. The stock did have very big runs just recently when they got that partnership with AMD with OpenAI. The stock did really take off significantly. So we're up for the year. For 1 year, we're up 82%. Year to date, 112%. 6 months, 155. The 1 month, 25. In the 1 week, not so well. So overall, as you can see, the stock has been just having an amazing time. Last quarter, before that, as you can see, AMD overall, they don't really miss earnings. So EPS, they always beat EPS. They missed one time since Q2 of 2021. They've only missed once, and that was Q3 of 2021. Besides that, they have consecutively beat EPS. Revenue perspective, so it looks like from a revenue perspective, they also beat on revenue. So they consistently beat the revenue line and EPS analyst expectations. Last quarter, they beat EPS by 20, revenue by 3.5%. The data center segment saw a 14% year-over-year revenue increase with significant demand for EPYC processors. And to be honest, even to this day, the EPYC processor is still very, very popular and growing. I think during this earnings, they may announce some great things that we don't even know yet. They just partnered up with the Department of Energy with like a $1 billion contract for data center, like more of like a research around research, health and quantum or something like that. So the fact that their partnership, the government is deciding, you know what, we're going to partner up with AMD when everybody knows and everybody's talking about NVIDIA being the number one. NVIDIA is going to be the winner, but the government is looking and saying, you know what, we need more in the market, and we're going to partner up with some of these underdogs. In a way, AMD is an underdog for now, but a lot of their products, specifically maybe the next line of GPUs, could compete closely to how Nvidia's is. So there is definitely room for this company. This company is still very tiny. If we look at AMD, AMD stock is still tiny. The market cap is okay. They're not tiny, but they're small. $415 billion. Nvidia, I mean, they're at $5 trillion. So if this is the gap between, a company that's, close competition to Nvidia, I think there's definitely room. Like Nvidia, I don't know why Nvidia couldn't be at least maybe $1 trillion market cap, because they make a lot of the same products. There should be room for them to expand into. So I think there's definitely, they're going to report amazing numbers. That's all I know. I think the margins are going to come across really good. Their partnerships are going to come across really good, and they're going to be reporting data on their new GB400 or something. Their new Nvidia AMD card. So so we just watched this video, Couch Investor. I really do follow this guy a lot. He's in the industry a lot more, and he was just saying, like, right now we've had significant run, and it might just not be worth buying the stock going into earnings. Earnings is going to be Q3. That's going to be on Tuesday. On Tuesday, they're expected to hit a revenue of 8.74. I bet they beat that by, I'm going to say here, 20%. 20 is crazy. 15 to 20%. I think they can be okay, especially with their partnerships. Yeah, I think they could hit. They can beat EPS maybe 10. Okay, maybe 15 to 20 is too much. So EPS, I mean, revenue can be beaten by 20. EPS by 10%. I think EPS, I'm gonna say like maybe 30, if not more, because when we see other companies that have reported, they have beat expectations crazy. So I don't see why AMD can't do that either. So they're going to be reporting on not the 4th, on the 3rd. Actually the 4th. Uber on November. Where are they? I thought they were reporting in the morning. AMD. SMCI is also reporting. So here they are. They're reporting after hours on the 4th. That's Tuesday. Beta Technology is going IPO. So we got Uber on Tuesday, Shopify, Spotify, Pfizer, Hut 8 Mining, ADM, Hertz, AMD, After Hours, SMCI. Who's this? Arisena Works. That's a big one. Astra Labs. Kava is gonna get beat up. Upstart, I think Upstart's gonna have really good numbers. They've been beating earnings. I think they're gonna also beat on revenue. They're gonna have blockbuster numbers just because of the industry they are in. Toast is also, Pinterest is reporting. Megan, I have no idea who that is. Kratos Defense, okay. All right, so that's exciting. So Tuesday is going to be pretty big numbers. I'm really looking forward to what AMD is going to be reporting. We've watched this. We saw that obviously Jermey is very bullish. We can watch a quick video on that, and then we'll go from there.
AMD is an extremely important position for me. I've been banging my hand on the table for the last 9 months or so on AMD stock, right? Incredible opportunity, one of the best opportunities I've seen in the market, certainly in 2025 at least, okay? I'll say it like that. And this is a very important position for me, now sitting on a $646,000 position in the public count. This is one of my biggest private portfolios. I have $505,000 of AMD in that private portfolio, so about $500,000 there, sitting on $302,000 of gains. So add up those together, and we're approaching $700,000 of gains, right? And then not only that, my Patreon. Remember, that's different than my private stock group, but my Patreon, that's usually for newer folks. The market don't have much money in portfolio, so everybody, right? Now, what stock am I showing you right now? I'm showing you a stock back from 2015, 2016. What did we find with this stock? This was a $1 to $2 stock. What stock was that? That was $1 to $2 10 years ago. The one you're looking at, AMD. Yes, that is how bad it was at AMD. Listen, you go in the gulag. The gulag's a stock that goes under $5. That's basically the market saying, it's not looking good for you. You go down to $2, $1, you become a $2 Chuck. You go under $2 Chuck, they're basically saying you're done. You're going bankrupt. You're going to zero. Robert De Niro, last action hero. You're Dunsky, right? And then what happened? Lisa Su pulls off the miracle of miracles, completely pivots the business, and now AMD, I believe today crossed around a $400 billion market cap or something like that, right? Incredible. And AMD is likely on its way to becoming a $1 trillion plus company. And think about this. This was a company 10 years ago that was on the verge of bankruptcy, ladies and gentlemen. Bankruptcy. To now the company at the center of the universe. Have the tides changed? Unbelievable. So the reason I point this out to you is you got to understand Lisa Su has pivoted the business before and got them on the right trajectory for growth. And I'm about to take you through the pieces of how Lisa Su has now pivoted the business again and put them on the right track for exponential growth for the next number of years. This dates all the way back to 2022 to put these pieces in place. In 2022, they finished up the acquisition of Xilinx. Now, Xilinx was very important for AMD, not just from the product side, and it's a the big revenue company, a big growth company, and the margins and the profitability and those sorts of things, right? All the financial things you would get from an acquisition like that. And if I recall, it was like a $50 billion acquisition. But Xilinx had one of the most respected teams of engineers and folks working for that company of just about anybody in the space. So when AMD made that acquisition, it wasn't just about a product, a service. It was about a team that could develop many new products and services and help AMD push growth forward in many years to go in the future, right? So when that deal closed at 2022, that wasn't even really the start of it. Like a lot of the products and services you're going to see now and over the next few years, a lot of the keep in mind. In 2024, they make another acquisition that's extremely important to put AMD in a position to really battle NVIDIA in 26 and beyond. And that was the acquisition of ZT Systems. You could not compete with NVIDIA the way NVIDIA is competing in regards to being a one solution. We're going to take care of everything for you. You couldn't really do that without making that acquisition, in my opinion, of ZT Systems.
If you're still here, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be dropping videos like this almost every single day, so make sure you subscribe.
A lot of people already want to say NVIDIA won the war. NVIDIA's won the battle, but this is a war that's going to go on for the next 10 years. This isn't like, oh, this is just whoever won in 2025 is whoever won. No. This is going to be a 10-year battle between NVIDIA and AMD, right? Like, this is a long-term thing. And these are two companies with very different strategies, and we're going to find out who's going to have the best strategy in the end in regards to this matter, right? Now, another acquisition, I think this is such an important acquisition that people didn't talk about this. This was like so on the DL. And this was an acquisition that went through last summer, and I think it's extremely important to where AMD is going in the future. AMD completes acquisition of Silo AI to accelerate development and deployment of AI models on AMD hardware. Very important. This Silo AI company, this was the largest private AI lab in Europe. The largest private AI lab in Europe. End-to-end AI solutions based on open standards. We know AMD is really trying to go with the open approach. Very different than NVIDIA. NVIDIA is trying to be more walled garden. NVIDIA is trying to be more Apple-esque. And AMD is over here saying, you guys can do that, but we're going to go after the big market share long term. Remember, Android has, 80% plus market share? That didn't mean Apple was a bad company or bad investment. They just had a different approach. And Google went with a different approach, right? And so when you look at NVIDIA and you look at AMD, understand these two companies are going with different approaches in the marketplace. And NVIDIA is going more of an Apple type approach, and they can still be phenomenal and very successful with that. AMD is going a little bit more of an Android approach, a Google type approach, and understand they can be extremely successful with that as well. And it's a potential that AMD long term could end up with even more market share than NVIDIA. And AMD could eat in that market share significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. Remember, this is not just a 1-2 year battle. This is going to be a war that's fought for a long time. Now, additionally, you see something like this. This just came out 12 hours ago. AMD reportedly establishes $280 million silicon photonics hub. I'm not the best at pronouncing certain words, okay? In Taiwan, new R&D center could accelerate company's co-packaged optics roadmap. Continue to push forward. They've done 3 acquisitions over the summer. This InnoSemi, Bryum, Untethered AI, all these little acquisitions that no one really talks about, but Lisa Su's not just doing these for the fun of it. There's specific people working at those companies. There's specific services and products and strategies that she wants to implement into AMD that's going to help AMD over the next 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. It's not just about, can you do for us in 2025? It's about getting these teams to work at AMD and getting those incredible, talented individuals to come up with game-changing products and services that we'll see 3 years from now, 5 years from now, things like that, right? Now, additionally, AMD, listen, they are at the center of the universe, making relationships and partnering with the best companies in the world that you would want to be partnered with, right? Look at something like this. 2 big techs combined. IBM and AMD team up to develop hybrid quantum-centric supercomputing. Very, very exciting. The center of the universe for the whole AI wave has been what company? OpenAI. ChatGPT launches, that takes off, and that changes everything forever in regards to AI, right? And that changes NVIDIA's roadmap, that changes AMD's roadmap, all those sorts of things, right? AMD and OpenAI announced strategic partnership to deploy 6 gigawatts of AMD GPUs. I mean, this is just a ridiculously huge deal in regards to AMD and what this means for AMD's revenues moving forward. But what this does for AMD's brand is more important than anything. You got OpenAI saying, we want your products and services. We want to have a very close relationship with you. They've worked, from my understanding, they've worked like this on the 400 series together, right? That's basically saying, if the company that is seen as a leader in AI is saying, we're going all in, AMD, why would you not? Everybody else has to fall in line in that situation. If you're the leader in the world in AI saying, we're going this route, everybody else says, dang, AMD's got it like that, right? But AMD serves a very important purpose to all these big tech companies. It's not just about the great technological advantages AMD products can give you. It's about undercutting NVIDIA's pricing and ultimately being able to keep NVIDIA at bay with their pricing. Because if NVIDIA has no competition, NVIDIA can charge whatever they want. And they've been able to push their net income margins to levels that we've never seen in history. That we're like, what? This is making even companies like Google and Meta look like they're not that profitable, right? And that's something else when you can do that. Because NVIDIA's been able to stand there and say, you pay us ridiculous money and we'll sell you this thing. Don't pay it, you got nowhere else to go. That has all changed now at this point in time. The 355 series is out there in production, and the 400 series, that's the first, I think, real product that competes head-on with NVIDIA's top of the line. And so now, NVIDIA no longer, in 26 and moving forward, is going to be able to say, we're just going to charge whatever we want to charge, because now they actually got competition. So AMD is a very important chess piece in regards to this whole AI game that's going to play out over the next decade. Keep that in mind. Like, I would call AMD, if we can call NVIDIA the king piece, AMD is the queen in regards to this, because they're important they're actually much more important than the king, because they're the ones that they're the ones that can make this whole thing work. If NVIDIA is able to just charge whatever price they want to these companies, the companies are eventually going to run out of money, where they're not going to be in a situation where they could even invest into the chips they really need to make their products and services in the future. That's why I call AMD really the queen piece of this whole chess set. And the deeper you go on this little rabbit hole, the more you realize, oh my gosh, like, OpenAI needs AMD to succeed massively. Meta needs them to succeed. Google needs them to succeed. Tesla needs them to succeed. Elon Musk, everybody needs AMD to succeed. Otherwise, likely you won't be able to put out the products and services you want, because NVIDIA's just standing there like, we want to charge $100,000 for this super advanced chip. Pay us $100,000. What are you going to do if you got nowhere else to go? You got to pay it, right? Now, additionally, AMD and Oracle are expanding their partnership to provide more hardware for the Oracle Infrastructure Cloud. Oracle will deploy AI supercluster with 50,000 AMD Instinct MI450 series GPUs, with deployments beginning in the third quarter of 2026 and expanding into 2027. This deal builds on the existing collaboration, which includes the use of AMD's Instinct MI300X and then the 355 series, which just went into production very recently. But we can tell everybody wants a 450 series, which means very good things for AMD's not only revenues starting next year, and specifically the back half of the year, but ultimately the margins as well. Because AMD's got a big kind of middle room where they can increase prices significantly on this 450 series versus the 350 series if they want, but still undercut NVIDIA. That's a beautiful thing, and that's why I tell you guys, NVIDIA is AMD's best friend. AMD is NVIDIA's worst enemy. There's a big difference, big difference in regards to this whole situation, right? And Jensen doesn't like what's going on here. I could tell the way he was speaking about that OpenAI deal and AMD giving part of their company after NVIDIA just invested money into OpenAI, and then all of a sudden OpenAI is like, we're going to buy all these NVIDIA. Jensen doesn't like this. Hey, it's Jeremy. I hope you really enjoyed watching that clip here today. What you're looking at in front of you right there, that's 1000xstocks.com. That's my advanced software that I've been working in the presenting exactly everything priced as each other. I want to be able to compare a Meta versus a Google versus an Apple and be able to calls right through and even be able to toggle and adjust the speed I wanted to listen to those conference calls. I wanted a service that I could search SEC filings right through. I wanted the ability to do that all in one service, and that is exactly what I've created with 1000xstocks.com and apply joy. Next up here, Google, McDougal. Then we're getting to Fubo. Then we're getting the two stocks I bought, $7,000 a piece. I put in those today. Then we're getting to Palantirs. Google McDougal, B plus income statement here. Revenues went to $102 billion from $88 billion. Very nice revenue growth from Google. Like a lot of people thought Google wouldn't even be able to grow double digits. Now they're growing at mid double digits revenue. Very impressive, Google McDougal.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. So that was a really good video on AMD. I think why it's gonna win. I really agree on the part when he was saying, hey, I think that AMD is the queen to the king that right now that is NVIDIA. Because it's true, very true, that if NVIDIA does not have any competition, they're going to be able to control what price they can sell all their products for. And that's going to be a problem for a lot of the companies out there that want to innovate and we use AI. But if NVIDIA is making their chips too expensive, graphics card too expensive for these AI products, then most companies are not going to be able to afford it. But at the end of the day, a company like Tesla, Facebook, or like Meta, Google, Oracle, the government, they're going to need a second source. Like, it is never a good idea to solely depend on one company to provide every single service that a company needs. So because of that, I think that we really, because of that, AMD does sit at this centerpiece of support that we can see that will come from all of the largest corporations out there, because they don't want to rely on only one individual company to provide all graphics cards. So because of that, I do think that AMD does have potential to really become like one of the the second most important company in this AI sector. But yeah, I'm excited about Tuesday. I think that is all I'm gonna do for today. I mean, I think we've kind of gone through everything that we need to. We've reviewed the earnings that are coming up on Tuesday. We've reviewed why AMD is actually one of the most important companies in the world of AI innovation. And Lisa Su is, partnering up with some of the largest companies out here, including OpenAI's recent partnership, and the stock price jumped insanely. So I do own the stock. The crazy part is I have it in my personal portfolio, and I have it in my HSA. My HSA allows me to invest, so I've actually went heavy on the AMD. It's the only thing that I hold in my HSA. So I have AMDL. I went long on this company way back here before it started taking off. And right now so this is what, $10.46, and now we're at what, $23.74. Once again, this is most of the time you don't want to be in this kind of stuff. It is very risky. It's 2x leveraged AMD, so AMD goes down by 10, you're down 20. So it's very scary. If AMD doesn't report good numbers, you can get messed up. But when AMD does well, you really do benefit on the upside. So I went leverage a while back. I still haven't sold it. I still haven't sold it in my personal holdings as well, in my personal just regular IRA account. But it seems like this is a kind of company that is just generational, a generational company. The next one I am really interested in looking at, like I posted in here, is Amazon, PayPal, Fobu. I can't have all of them. The market has so many treasures right now. There's so many companies that's worth buying. I don't even know what is the best company to actually buy. There's so many opportunities, and a lot of these opportunities are not companies that are that tiny. I mean, SoFi, I mean, I already have shares, but I want to buy more into this company. This is a $35 billion market cap, right? So mid cap company. So a lot of these companies are not just like speculative companies. Fubo is probably the only one that would be a little bit speculative. They are about $4 billion, yeah, going on to $5 billion company. They are, I think, when it comes to like what's going to happen in the World Cup that's coming up in 2026, I think they're going to win there. They have the most channels out there. They have decently priced subscription model, and then I can see like corporations like as well as like restaurants and bars subscribing to a model like this, and as well as just regular users who love sports can subscribe for to a product like this, like Fubo. So I think Fubo does have potential. But yeah, I've left all those companies in the comment section. We got AMD and Google. I really would love to buy Amazon as well. Google, again, another amazing company. If you want me to cover any of those in depth, let me know. Leave it in the comment section. I will be back on tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. I love doing this kind of thing. Every single day I go live and try to find some of the best stocks that I see out there, and see if the company's worth looking up even deeper. Yesterday I spent quite a bit of time doing research on some of these companies that just IPO'd. Most recently within the 5 years. So these are companies that IPO'd in the last 5 years in the United States, specifically in the tech sector, with a stock price under $40. And I was able to find about 5 out of the ones that I saw that was like maybe it was about 30. 5 are actually worth looking at. PDYN, GCT, Exodus, Movement Inc., Crypto. We got MNTN, like more like an ad-based kind of company. Here, they're like data center play here. They have, let's say they buy out a whole bunch of NVIDIA chips, and then they rent out a GPU or processing power to companies. We got Backblaze. This is a company focused on data resiliency, data security. So and then they have a subscription-based model business. So these are some of the companies I went through. I mean, if you want to check that video out, you can watch it from yesterday. I'm going to keep doing this kind of stuff. I love doing this. It's actually really exciting. I'll continue doing it. Make sure you subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow. Have an amazing weekend. Peace.